Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Minh Le here again, and hopefully we got a good time. So here we get back to another speedrun game, when I try my best to teach you guys something or trying to show you guys some instructive lessons, right? Welcome to my stream. So hopefully we can learn some stuff. We play a repeat game here of 10 minutes with 0-second increment, and I will try and explain my thinking process in the game, showing you some ideas in the openings, things like that, and then obviously answer people questions. Hopefully we enjoy the time, and let's try to go for the things. So let me start right away first. Let's go to detail. So we should be white instead. White. We met a French player, Le is he dead? That is not an easy name to pronounce though. I guess I will go for e4. Let's game e4. Okay, so I just see an opening suggestion with King's Gambit, which I find it also a very interesting game. Let's go for this one for once. I guess that I will not repeat this line lots of time, but I think it's gonna be a fun choice this game. Let's go. King's Gambit, f4. In fact, this line is known to be dubious, but it is actually playable as a stat. As you know, I think Nepomniachtchi also released a course in Chessable, right, with this line, and he played that in real life with some good success. So this is definitely a playable stuff. So my opponent, he go for d6, and he want to defend the pawn here, I think in a pretty passive way. f3, put pressure on the pawn here on e5. Also, defend check here in the future if happens. My plan is pretty simple. With these ideas here, I can try to open up the f-file and attack on f7 right away. So now my development can be bishop c4, castles, d3, and try and put pressure on him. Okay, knight c6. c4, as mentioned earlier, the plan is the same. Castles and go for the attack on f-file. Castles, as mentioned earlier, very simple plan. In fact, so I know we want to defend knight g5, right? So this makes some sense. e4. So now he made what I consider a mistake. If he wanted the pawn, he should go for the pawn earlier. But okay, it is still, I think, a playable game. So a natural response here, whenever you see this one, is to play d4, right? He may play g5 to defend the pawn, which I think is a best move for sure. See what he play. But now, so what we have here is that we are white with our pawn, right? But we have a situation when we have a good attack and we got a good control of the center. See that? Okay, so now we play knight f6 instead. I get the pawn here right away though, which may lead to some very interesting situation. Let's go for it. f4. I can play knight c3 as well too. But now one thing I do see is that I am up in development, right? And his king is not castle yet. So I want to, bet him, stay the pawn e4. Let's go. f4. Okay, knight e4. Okay, now it's getting very fun. Let's shoot the ideas here. So now he took the pawn in the center, which seems to be okay, right? But in the meantime, it really put him in trouble when the king and the knight is in the same file, right? e1. This is only move. Other thing I think was on the spot. I feel this one should be next. d5 when defend the knight and attack my bishop at the same time. So now d5, I hope that he play that, which I think can be very instructive. Hope we can play that. Okay, he made a mistake. He made a mistake here. which make the game now become short again. Okay guys, I think I'll ask you guys right away here, why to play? There are some few ideas here. You can try to put pressure on this pin. Why to play? What is the way to put pressure on this pin and win material? I can just say that Black blundered in the game. He blundered. This one is a clear blunder actually, which you should definitely avoid. This one I think is a pretty good case, like how can you try to exploit the pin, and also be careful of his idea. Somehow, now if you play some natural move like bishop d3 or knight d2, he can just play d5 and he got things covered, right? Which may make it not that easy. So here there are two moves you can play. Bishop d5 is the first one. This one I think is even the most straightforward, when you prevent d5 by putting bishop there and take knight here as well, right? Which makes some sense. But I think I will play something that makes, that seems to be normal, and I think also a good developing move that the chat pointed out. Knight c3. The reason why this is a good move is that it also controls d5, right? So he could not really play d5. It is covered. So now we bring more attacker to e4, and in the meantime, we develop as well, right? So now I am hoping for a mate like g5, knight e4, and go for the double checkmate, right? Which is gonna be very cool if that happens. But let's see now how can he deal with the thing. I mean, d5 in fact is also fine. I guess we play knight e7, right? Knight e7. I'm pretty sure this is working as well, but I guess that it may be much more harder, right? So why do we need to get into this detail when we can just play here with a knight and cut up a piece, right? g5. Oh my god, it's g5. g5, guys. Okay, so knight e4. Take the bishop. 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 Please. Damn. You see, right? I didn't expect that. Take the bishop. Take the bishop. This is free. Do it. Do it. Do it. Take the bishop. I mean, obviously you can play here to survive, I guess so. That may make the game longer indeed. Yes. Okay, so he did not take the bishop, but he also played a move that is also the same. So guys, now, chat, please give me a thing. Obviously, you don't have that all the time, So let's go for it. Sometimes this thing can be particularly good, particularly good. And that's why we got double check mid. Ooh, very nice. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I am very excited to carry it out, You don't have that all the time. Let's do it. Okay, so here, obviously, what I can say here is that my opponent, he played something wrong in the opening, and he got punished, right? Like, the thing here is that he kind of messed it up with his, development, and things like that. No worries, I mean, in fact, the game is short. But now there comes the longer part, which is the opening ideas and I guess the best thing he can play, which I think will lead to plenty of other questions. So let's go to the opening and go to the game analysis again. So first of all, thank you Lee Shake is dead for the game. I'm sorry for the mid. That is really unintentional. So, in the game, we play the King's Gambit, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, this lie is considered dubious. You turn on the engine, you realize that it will give black something like plus 0.4 or plus 5, I think, right away. When black can take the pawn here and go for debate. In fact, so now I can play this one or this one. You can play plenty of stuff. The main line is clearly knight f3, and I can play like maybe like here, d5, g5, here, you know, all kind of things, right? Obviously, so I guess nowadays the best line that I think black players seems to go for is this. I think the Abbasia defense here and knight f6, and then give it the pawn. I think this is the main line like here, this, and d4, and then you play like here, and then you castle properly this move. When black actually is doing fine with the pawn here, restricting white's pieces. Somehow here also there's some tricks that you need to know. And for instance, castles allow queen b6, right? And you would have a piece. Obviously, here so white also got some tricks in his lips. For instance, here so you know there's some line like g5, right? You can play like I think h4, g4, knight e5 for instance, right? You can also play here with a super famous sacrifice like g4 and castles, right? I think this is called the Muzio Gambit. And many times we got some games when white sacrificed a pawn and went for an insanely annoying attack. So this line I think is a very good choice for players who wanted to go for activities, who wanted to go for complications, and go for some upbeat things in the early opening. You know what I mean? Although, obviously you must be very careful, since sometimes you may get into some situations that you can get attacked. You know what I mean, right? For instance, like another line here, I could show like for instance like bishop c5, you know, for instance, right? When you need to play knight f3 as well, if you carelessly take the pawn, you know that lost. King e2, mate, and g3, lost, right? So in fact, this one is like I think a very double-edged opening, when literally you need to be ready for complications all the time. You know what I mean? In the game, he went for d6, which I considered somewhat passive. Why? Since it blocked its own bishop, right? And somehow, I think with this move here, he need to succumb to a bit, I think, passive development. Obviously, he's still fine. In the game, f3, right here, he can take the pawn still, but as I mentioned earlier, my plan is still the same. But we will get to that part later on. In the game, now here, c4. So now in the game he played s6, which I think is reasonable. But I guess he can play right away. When knight g5 allowed d5, right? When black actually got the, I think, okay, which line? I forget the name. Yeah, front lever. With a much better version. So here I can just play castles or like d3. When if people realize we get to the same kind of thing with the Vienna setup, isn't it? Vienna setup. Like here, and then here, right? And got like the Vienna setup. And then white can try to go like queen e1, like attack in the king side here. Although it is equal a counter engine, but I always find white's game much easier to play. Like he got much more clearer plan, you know. In the game here, so he play move a6 here, castles. So e4, which I think is a reasonable choice. d4, he can still play here now, you know, but now I think can be d3, and which lead to the same thing earlier, right? When white somehow can obtain, I think, fairly easy and straightforward play. You know what I mean? So in the game here, you take the pawn, d4. So now, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but here I believe the best way to play is g5. When he defend the pawn, you got a pawn chain here on a sudden, right? And somehow I think he's doing fine, somehow. Although he's down in development, but I have no real good ways to open up the center, right? I guess I can play c3 here to go for queen b3 maybe, which seems like a reasonable choice. I can also go for knight c3 as well, you know, and go for like, for instance, knight d5, I guess, and go for like something like c3 and e5 later on. But in fact, it's not that easy to prove the compensation, in my opinion. Although white is definitely not worse. Just like some kind of thing that you need to prove your compensation, which is not that easy. I guess you can play knight e5 here, and knight g7, you play c3. If you castles, you can like h4, right? When the game can get super wild and not easy to play at all, right? In the game, he played knight f6, this one, which sadly is, I think, a mistake. One thing he did do is like, I think he messed up his play. If he want to take the pawn, you take right away and move first, and move second, right? But he play here, and then now once he is ready with some slow development, he took the pawn and doesn't defend it back, which allow me the chance to get some activities here, right? So in the game here, bishop f4. For now, the best idea is bishop e7 for sure. When I can play knight c3, right? Castles, and then like queen d2, and then here, and here, and here, and here, right? When white obtain a very great edge due to the space initiative and pieces activities. You understand me? So in the game, he played knight e4, which as mentioned earlier is a huge mistake. e1. As I mentioned in the game, he played here, right? Which obviously is now losing a piece, as mentioned earlier. In fact, it's the best move here. Now I realize that. I'm gonna mention later on. So as mentioned earlier, I'm gonna pin here, right? This is calling for. And now here in the game, I did already prepared for, I think, a very strong move. Knight c3. Attack both the pawn and the knight, right? I suppose that he should play dc4, the bishop, which checks here, right? Bishop e7. Okay, guys. So why to play now? What do you think is the best move for white at this position, when he is clearly having, I think he's our pawn, right? But much better development and also pieces are ready for the attack. Why to play? How can you keep up with the attack? I want to see how people can try to react in this type of situation first, which I think it should not be very hard, but it's very, I think, instructive in my idea. Okay, so there are a few moves you can surely try to play. First of all, knight d5. I don't know why it was recommended by plenty of people here, but basically it hang a knight. That is gonna be very hasty and should never be considered. Tripling in the e5 seems fair as well, like queen e2, right? But then he can just play castles. And rook e1 here doesn't really do much, right? d5 seems to be a much natural response, but black owns this one as well, with the checks. When I think now he's out of trouble. So the best way to play here is mentioned by plenty people, d5, exclamation mark. When your opponent is not castles yet, and you got the developer initiative, right? You're ready to go for attack right away. You need to strike. You know what I mean, right? So now, black actually is in big trouble. Somehow his knight seems to lack a squares to go, right? Knight b8, for instance, looks very ugly. When now I think you can play queen e2, which is a very natural idea to put pressure on the pin, right? He can't castle us, and rook e1 is coming next. Although white is now a pawn, right? But you couldn't feel that. The pawn can always be recaptured back, and black struggles with development, right? Knight a5 basically results in the same thing. See that? This is a very, I think, typical idea here to prevent your opponent from castling, and you know, it is, I think, a really useful one. Know what I mean? Knight b5 is also very good as well too, which is also mentioned by some people. But I guess they can play castles. I think he will be very happy to sacrifice some material in order to get to safety. You know what I mean, right? When bishop c7, doesn't seem to work. And knight c7, I think it leads to a very interesting idea by black. Bishop f5. And now I think the worst is gone for black. Seriously. Right? When now he's over, he can be getting rook to see it. And I don't think you have much right here. You know what I mean? So that's why here this one is also reasonable. Black can castles, and I think he can run away from the attack. When you're up in development, d5 and attacking right away is always a good choice to do. You understand me? So here, but this one is the best thing you can go for, I believe. Somehow, so he is so passive that literally this is the best thing you can do, but it is already looking very terrible, right? But still, it's better than the game. In the game, play bishop f5. So now, after take a look at this game again, I realize instantly that my move in the game is not the best one. The best one here is clearly bishop d5. When then you win a piece for free. No way black can defend anymore on the knight e4, and you win a piece. Win a piece. Can this work after d5? Good question. But here, I don't know. Play here, right? He can text, and if you play here, right? He can play this one actually, when he can try to close the e file. If he does have this move here, you can surely take this way. But he gets one available, which I'm afraid that it may not work out super well for you. Understand me? So here in the game, so let's back to the game here. So in the game, plan c3 here. And now I realized that's the best move. Black had a good defense. Bishop e7. Bishop e7. Takes. Takes. And takes. Right? When he can have d5. And suddenly, after this, you must play here. When, I mean, things are still looking very good, right? Have bishop pair against the rook. And bishop pair looks also very good as well too. But this is kind of clear now that it is not that clear compared to being up a piece, right? That's why the move in the game is also not the best. I guess that's just like the most natural, but not the best. But yeah, human speedrun, I guess so. Oh my gosh. Back to the game. In the game still, he plays g5. G5. Which obviously is asking for trouble. Isn't it? Knight e4. And now we get the threat here, which in the game he missed. And we got a very unexpected finish. Right? Very unexpected finish. Somehow he should play bishop e7, right? And now you have many ways to convert. Okay guys, last question. So now if you are playing for white here, how can you choose to convert? Why to play? I'm pretty sure you have many ideas available to go for the win. But here, if you're white, what may you want to do? Just remind yourself that he can still have like d5 idea or here available. Why to play? You have a piece here, but your pieces are being attacked. How may you play in this situation? I'm pretty sure it might also create a fun, I think, discussion when there seems to be many moves available. Interesting. Okay, I see two moves here. Obviously, I'm happy to see all people here giving you ideas. So if you guys want to be involved, and want to see ideas here, feel free to get in. Okay, I see 4 different moves. To be honest, I even expect to see more than that. Feel free to give me your ideas, you know. There are many ideas here that is playable. Just like, which one is the best? Which one get you the type of position that you think is good enough for you, you know? I guess about conversion, the best thing to do is not going for the engine line, but it's going for the line you think give you the edge that you are the most confident to convert. For draw, yeah, I mean it's also playable as well. I agree with that. Let's go to the game. So the move here that was mentioned mostly is knight eg5, which is not clear. Take here, right? And he can play maybe king f8. That's one. He can run away from the pin, and now I suppose that you are a pawn up, right? But it's not that clear how can you keep on attacking him. So this is good, but maybe not the best in terms of the initiatives. Knight f6, king f8, and once again, you can't defend both pieces at the same time, right? When things may be not that simple. You understand? That's why this one actually is the thing that may not be the best move. The engine realized that you can still play like here, you know, from the edge, but this is actually much harder. Here, so there are 2 moves. 2 is this move here to convert. First one is mentioned by Fisher and Chess. D5, exclamation mark. You stop him from playing d5 himself, right? And you put pressure on the knight. In the meantime, you can also play knight d4 to pressure his bishop here as well. See that? For instance, you play knight e5, right? Should be b5 here. c6 is losing for sure, which can't be recommended. So play king here, right? And now you can just like, let's say like, I mean bishop g3, you know, and you up a full and easy piece, isn't it? And then like here later on, take on the f file, right? If you play knight in gf4, take here with the knight here, right? And here you play knight d4, and you can see already that white seems to get, a strong and a winning edge. You know what I mean? The second move here was mentioned by Faster Pat, knight g3. Simple as that. Run the knight away, and the bishop, right? Now d5 is nothing anymore, and if you play here, just play here, no? And now you're up a piece, which is enough, right? But still, as you can see here, not only ways will lead to the win, right? You need to be a bit picky or think about the best way to convert. Not everything is winning for you. Even you can be better in most of the lines, you need to find the thing that gives you, the edge, and allow you to be able to convert without allowing any kind of play at all. You understand me? But still, in the game, I'm happy to go for this mid, and I think this is a very good way for me to end a nice day. We got second in Tower Tuesday, and now this, and also we got a fun stream today as well, which means a lot to me. Thank you guys for coming here. I hope you understand the games and understand the explanation. Please follow my YouTube video and channels to get some more videos. Stay tuned. Love you, and we'll see you later. Bye.